Modern Pokemon games have drama on every release, and yet people keep buying them. In fact, they're buying them more now than almost ever in the past. Why is that? Why does it seem that so many people will never quit Pokemon no matter what choices Game Freak makes, even if they seem bizarre at times? Well, let's start off with the fact that no matter the complaint or the controversy, Pokemon games never actually seem to have their sales affected by them. Be it Sword and Shield Dexit not allowing you to transfer all previous Pokemon, Scarlet and Violet being a glitchy mess in so many ways visually and gameplay wise, or Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl having a less than stellar art style for a remake, as well as a lot of other things. All these things made huge waves on Twitter or on YouTube with their Nintendo drama channels, but if you're looking at sales, well, Generation 8 is the second best selling Pokemon generation of all time with 26 million units sold, and Generation 9 is close behind with 25 million units sold. And the Generation 4 remakes, well, they sold 2 million more than the magnum opus that is Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It's kind of wild. And yeah, the Switch is one of the best-selling video game consoles of all time, so it does kind of make sense. But still, you would expect these very vocalized issues to cause some damage, but it seems like in reality, they don't really. It's obvious that many of you aren't quitting Pokemon because, well, the games are still selling so well. And let's all be honest with ourselves, if you clicked on this video, you're very likely to be just like me where you actually kind of love Pokemon, where you have an insane level of nostalgia for this series, and it's likely to keep you a lifelong fan, at least for the older generations. And as well, that nostalgia is gonna quite likely push you to giving these new games a chance. It's just hard to, completely hate everything that you once loved. Be it the card games, the spin-off, the TV show, or the mainline series, whatever it is, there's been so much to connect with over time, and even if you don't grind the games like you used to, it's hard to stop yourself from buying a new gen every year or two just to kind of see what's up, then quickly move on to something else. The main thing in my eyes to why you haven't quit this game series yet is that there's been a decline in the quality of important but not crucial elements of Pokemon. The game's controls and glitches are worse than ever, as well as a lot of visuals and animations, but the key concepts, the secret sauce of Pokemon, it's all still there. And the games, well, they're just still quite fun to play. Starting with the battle system, it has taken very, very few risks. So it honestly still feels quite fun all these years later because it was just a good system in the first place, even if it can feel quite a bit samey. That sameness, though, also comes with a benefit that is coziness. You're never going to jump in a new generation of Pokemon and go, dang, I don't really know what's going on. I'm overwhelmed. I quit. That's not gonna happen because it works the same way that it's kind of always worked. Except for that, maybe you just have to deal with one new mechanic per generation that honestly is usually introduced in the second half of the game, and that's kind of it. So it's really easy to keep playing these games and to keep going on because basically every new game you play is just a continuation from the old one in 99% of the gameplay. Pokemon designs are also still quite unique and let you connect to them in a way that I don't think a lot of other games quite do. Now, maybe that's not every Pokemon, and maybe even these new generations don't do it quite as well as they did in the past. It's really up to interpretation. But I think there are enough Pokemon that people like in every generation where it's still working out. Such as, Snom, who is in Generation 8, and I love that Pokemon. And I actually got a plushie of it on my trip to Japan. I think it's super cute and super fun. And I think a lot of people just like playing these games to see cute or cool or awesome or whatever new designs, and Pokemon have consistently created them and allow you to, as well, which not many other games franchises have done that well, allow you to purchase them in a myriad of ways, which, yeah, not all games do too well, but like the Pokemon plushies, the Pokemon merch, all of that, they really do allow you to attach to certain designs in every gen. They've definitely kept the soul and the goal of Pokemon, to go out there into an adventure in an isekai world essentially, to capture a lot of monsters, to build a team that feels like it's made just for you, to make them more and more powerful as you conquer more challenges, and finally to become the best that no one ever was, to become a champion as you capture Pokemon along the way. The structure of Pokemon hasn't really changed, even if they play around with stuff like gyms or trials or stadiums or whatever. In the end, the purpose of why you're there is the same, and I think it's really easy to get invested into these worlds, into these journeys, as well as taking those little friends with you. While sometimes the gameplay and definitely the visuals of these games are just kind of broken, to be honest, on the Switch generation, which I don't even know how, the ideas are generally quite good. Generation 8 had a lot of areas that were kind of boring to play, basically just going down a hallway. But when you looked at them, they were awesome in concept. And Generation 9, that middle zone, it just had the vibe. It was so cool. It was so unique, even though it could have maybe looked a little bit better in execution. I think they just keep building these worlds that are awesome to explore and that we want to explore. Even if the worlds aren't quite as good or quite as interesting as they used to be, I think for most, it's still good enough. And the thing that I think is also just that little extra bit of spice that makes these worlds inhabitable and something that I want to go back to time and time again is that the music is still fire. And while this doesn't matter to everyone, some people even play these games muted, I think it is so good in some of these generations, especially Generation 8. That made me so excited to play any battle, to beat the gyms, to go all the way to the end, even though sometimes the gameplay or the map or whatever wasn't quite as good as I was used to. As I've explained, the important ingredients are still well prepared in Pokemon, and they keep the Pokemon machine rolling, even if the end product is not quite as good as it could be, and even if they could definitely use more time for a lot of these games. I think it's good enough for what most people want in ways that their wallet proves that they actually care about. Like, of course, Pokemon could include custom animations for every single Pokemon. They could do that for a lot of moves, for their death, for their animal animation, for everything like Coliseum or Stadium, but like they don't need to. And while I would love if they did, that isn't the main focus of the games compared to these full battle simulators like Battle Revolution. What they're doing is definitely just making the minimum viable product that still works, that still appeals to fans, and with a player base as big as a Switch, yeah, it makes sense why that would still sell like hotcakes, even if it could be so much more. All the reasons I've mentioned so far, I think are great reasons to why we still buy these games. You know, they still provide enough value within the game themselves, but why do we still want to play these games? Well, I'm going to mention a few reasons here, and the first one is that each new Pokemon generation is honestly not that huge of a time investment, and I think that does matter quite a bit. Like, sure, you can put thousands of hours into each game competitively, or you can grind shinies for hundreds of hours, or maybe even get addicted to watching Wolfie videos, but you don't have to. You could just play 30 hours, have fun, complete the generation, and then move on and wait 2 years until the next one and really give yourself time to not get overkill with Pokemon. These games let you play in the way that you want to, be that more or less, and they really have you covered. Another reason why I've been playing them recently, at least in Generation 9, is that they added multiplayer, and that is a very important thing to me, something that I always wanted in these games. Just being able to walk around with your friends, explore everything with your friends as well. And yeah, I'm just kind of addicted to multiplayer. I won't lie, and I'm sure a good amount of you guys as well. It's just fun to play with other people. It's a great time to grind every once in a while with my wife, and then, find a Pokemon I love, eventually buy a plushie. It's just good vibes to play with other people, and these new generations are kind of the only place you can do it. Another boon that Pokemon has, both competitively and casually, is that I don't think the balance of Pokemon actually matters that much. Now, while it's awesome to have an extremely balanced game, in Pokemon, the way that the stats work and the way that just the gameplay system works, I think it's hard to completely break this game. And casually, I think they've actually done quite a great job, where the old Pokemon have been buffed to a decent standard so that you can basically pull out any new Pokemon, even if it's been crowd creeped a little bit and is a little bit stronger, but it doesn't matter that much, or you can play your old favorites and they still work. You can still play through the game and still win the game, at least if you get a little bit over leveled. And with competitive Pokemon, while there have been some pretty bonkers metas, such as with Olras, Primal, Kyogre, and Groudon, I think when a lot of new generations come out, their early VGCs are actually quite fun. So I think while, a loud minority will complain about the balance, I don't think in Pokemon it matters nearly as much as a ranked first mentality type game like, Dota 2 or anything like that. And even if there is power creep making the new Pokemon a bit better than the old ones, again, it doesn't matter that much since anyone can use any Pokemon that they really want to. So I think in the end, it's pretty all right. Those are all reasons why people keep playing the new games, why people keep buying the new games, and why you probably won't quit those. But maybe you have quit those. And I think to you, the old games are also just as amazing as I remembered. I see myself going back and playing them probably until I die, to be honest. And I play probably one Pokemon game, one of the old games, one of the nostalgic games, at least once per year. Be it trying different teams, playing monotypes, trying to speedrun those games, going for a Nuzlocke and just trying my very best, or maybe even just playing the game really casually and just trying to experience it as I did as a kid. I think all of that is just still enjoyable, and those games, they did age super well. They just have such a nice feeling to them, and maybe it's just the nostalgia talking, but I love going back to those, and I think no matter what, I'm probably never going to quit those. I can definitely see why people may get bored of certain games for a while, why they may need a break for a year or two, or even just skip a generation. But the call to replay your favorite games, that's always gonna come. Booting up Leaf Green or booting up Platinum just to play that game one more time to become the best that no one ever was, that part of my childhood I truly miss. And Pokemon rekindles that joy that I once had, on the back of my family's minivan on those car trips playing Pokemon with my brother. Yeah, it's still there. Overall, I love Pokemon, and while it may not reach that potential that I can imagine for it, that I wish that it could hit, it's still a game series that I love, and it's still a game series that I'm sure a lot of you guys love. A game series that has given me so much enjoyment, so much time with other people, so much to talk about, and I'm sure it's going to continue to do that for years to come. And when you put all those things together, I think that's why you're probably never going to fully quit Pokemon. Maybe you'll stop buying the new games, maybe you're going to only play the new games and not play the old ones, but I think there is just a little bit of something for everyone, at least for me and my friends. And if you want to talk about another game that a large proportion of the population is never going to quit, well, I have a video right here talking about League of Legends, a game that so many people are addicted to. I'm sure a decent amount of you guys as well. And even if you're not, I think it's a pretty interesting video talking about why so many people play that game still and why it's probably never going to die. So if you guys want a video similar to this, make sure to give that a click, and I hope you can enjoy that as well. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a wonderful day.